Digestive issues are by far the most common thing people ask for help about here at Lander's Corner. And so I wanted to have Tina Anderson back on to discuss her product lines, because probiotics, prebiotics, all that can be really confusing, and nobody knows it better than her. So we're going to talk a lot about Just Thrive, all the gut microbiome, and really important information to line that gut out. Tina, so glad to be visiting with you again. I have been working with Just Thrive for many years, since Dave Asprey is who kind of made me aware of y'all, and with Lander's cancer battle early on, Just Thrive is something I have incorporated from the get-go, and seen massive results. So you have been instrumental in taking probiotics to almost this transparent and for better or worse, the term pharmaceutical type approach. And so just thank you for that, because I know your products have made a massive impact on our customers and family. So why did you get into probiotics?
Thanks, Logan. Well, first of all, I'm so excited to be here again with you. I love chatting with you. And like I said before, your heart is definitely in the right place, and that makes all the difference. But yeah, why we got into it, my husband and I were in the pharmaceutical business, and we thought this was a great business. We're thinking we are actually making changes in people's lives. We're helping people. We're delivering life-saving medications. And after being in the industry, we started to see a lot of the abuses. And we all know there are certain pharmaceuticals that are really making a difference in people's lives, but we just didn't feel that they're a place for chronic conditions. If you have high blood pressure, if you have high cholesterol, if you have an autoimmune disease, why do you have this? What is going on? And let's get to the root cause of it. And we know that the pharmaceutical industry is not getting to the root cause of anything. They're treating symptoms. And sometimes you need that. And I don't mean to suggest that there's no place for pharmaceuticals. I just think we need to focus on the root cause of an issue. And that's what, we started to do some research on that, and realizing that so much of what's going on with our overall health is really based in our gut. It's rooted in our gut. And that's what we need to focus on. And we started to see that people were turning to probiotics for that and really not getting many results from it, because the overwhelming majority of probiotics weren't necessarily, going in and changing the microbial environment.
The more we've just really dove in to it, the connection with the gut has such a massive impact for just overall well-being. And I think like the number one thing that we get approached with, because through the farmers market and health food store, is gut problems. It's constipation, or it's diarrhea, it's cramping, it's things that maybe they don't even realize are gut related, from the fatigue and the poor sleep and just on and on, right? So what makes Just Thrive's probiotics different from, I can't even wrap my mind around the whole it has to be refrigerated aspect, but what's different about
The biggest difference is really survivability. So the overwhelming majority of probiotics are just not making it to the intestines alive. So in order to be defined as a probiotic, it needs to be a live microorganism that confers a benefit onto the host, which the host is the body. So the overwhelming majority of probiotics they're dead on arrival. They arrive in the intestines and they're actually dead bacteria. And they might provide some symptomatic relief. They might give you some relief, but they're not making a true change in the intestinal tract. So with the spore-based probiotics, which are the type of strains that are used in Just Thrive, they're actually dormant when you take them. So they're not actually live microorganisms. They're dormant. And then when they get into the intestines, they take their shell off, and that's when they become alive. They actually recognize the intestines as their home, and they take this endospore shell off, and that's when they become a live microorganism. And that's when the true change starts to happen in the gut, because they're live and they're staying there making, changes. They stay there for about 21 to 28 days, making changes and getting rid of pathogenic bacteria, helping bring your beneficial bacteria back to life and, thrive, if you will. So it's a really different approach than the majority of probiotics on the market. And, we see this all the time. You see doctors saying, make sure you take a probiotic that's in the refrigerator. I know you touched on that. And it's like a part of me is happy that like a doctor is actually talking about a probiotic. I'm like, that's a good step in the right direction. But if a probiotic needs to be refrigerated to stay alive, what that tells us is that they're such sensitive organisms that they can't even withstand the room temperature of the store shelf. So if you put that probiotic bottle on the store shelf, it would die. So what in the world will it do when it hits your body temperature, which is much hotter than the, store shelf? Much less what's going to happen when it hits the intestines and the stomach acid. And, it's so acidic. It's meant to be the gastric barrier. The answer is that they're going to die. And we've tested this over and over again, and they're just dying, and they're not really making a true change in the gut.
The studies that y'all do to support the things you say are really kind of what stands y'all apart for me, definitely, because it's backed up. And I love how Kieran is always doing the webinar. I am privileged to be, behind the scenes, to have access to the webinars and the unbelievable work that y'all do. So I'm really, I always sing y'all's praises. But why is our gut microbiome just completely destroyed for the need to even take a probiotic?
Yeah, well, the biggest thing is the environment we're living in. I mean, we are living in such a toxic environment. One of the biggest offenders are antibiotics. And again, we know sometimes people have to take an antibiotic, and I would recommend that you try to avoid them at all costs. But if you need to take one, it's destroying your gut microbiome. But antibiotics, not just that we take, are found in our food supply and animal products, and these are destroying our guts. Glyphosate, which is the active ingredient in Roundup that's being sprayed all over our produce, is so detrimental to our gut health. I would argue that it's actually more detrimental than antibiotics, because antibiotics kill the bad bacteria, which is what we want them to do. But, they kill the good bacteria, which we don't want them to do. Glyphosate actually is only targeting the beneficial bacteria. So it's not even killing the bad bacteria in our gut. It's only killing the beneficial bacteria. And glyphosate, we just can't escape. I mean, I always recommend people eat organic, and I eat organic as much as possible. I know it's hard for a lot of people, but I recommend that you try to do that, because we want to limit the exposure to that glyphosate, because the glyphosate is so disruptive to our gut health. The toxins and chemicals, all these common household products that we're cleaning with, are so disruptive. There was a study that came out that said households that use those products that says kills 99.99% of the bacteria actually have children with a higher incidence of allergies and autoimmune issues, because they're killing the microbes, the hand sanitizers that we've been using, killing the microbes all over us. So really, unfortunately, this world we're living in is so disruptive to our gut health. And yet our gut is dictating virtually every aspect of our overall health. It's hard to find any disease out there, any communicable disease that's not associated with some disruption in our gut microbiome. And yet we're living in this world that's just so disruptive to it. And I don't mean to paint a dismal picture, because it is dismal in that the world we're living in is so disruptive, and we know that the gut is dictating virtually all aspects of our overall health. But there's good news. Our gut can be repaired. We can do things to support our gut health, and so that's the positive thing. But we have to recognize those symptoms. People are like, oh, I'm bloated, no big deal. Or I have a skin rash, no big deal. Or I have a mood disorder, I'm anxious, or I have a little bit of depression. These are all signs that we've got some imbalance going on in our gut. We all associate like, oh, we're constipated, or we have diarrhea, or we have gas or bloating, that those are indications that we have gut imbalance. And yes, those are definitely reasons to tell you, I've got some gut imbalance. But we're not thinking about acne, or we're not thinking about skin rashes and skin issues, or autoimmune issues, or allergies. These are all, and of course our mood, those are all indications that we have some gut imbalance going on.
It wasn't very long ago that the mainstream medical world laughed at leaky gut. I remember that being all kinds of things. This is a farce. This is nothing to this. This doesn't make sense. It's not science. That was not that long ago. So, can you help us understand what is leaky gut on that basic level, and what's the problem with it?
Yeah, it's actually pretty easy to understand. We've got this intestinal cell wall and it becomes leaky, basically. Holes develop in it, and toxins that are in our gut that are not really problematic, these LPS, lipopolysaccharide toxins, actually start to seep into our bloodstream. So we have these LPS toxins that are in our gut. They're really not causing that many problems for us. But when we start to have that leakiness in the gut, this thinning of the gut wall and holes in the gut wall, we now start seeing these LPS toxins seep into the bloodstream. Now that's where we start to have some real problems, because our immune system recognizes it as an invader and starts this inflammatory response to this invader into the bloodstream. And this causes all types of inflammation. So we could have inflammation going to the brain, we could have inflammation going to the heart, we could have inflammation going to the liver, any of our organs. And it starts to cause this, inflammatory response by our immune system. So we have got to seal up that leaky gut. That is so important to our overall health, to make sure that we're sealing up that leaky gut. And all of these offenders that I just talked about are just causing that leakiness of the gut.
And I think that's why we're so passionate on one hand of the food, because, cancer's my absolute focus, but the cancer, along with other chronic diseases, there's so many links. I believe most everything we're dealing with is a metabolic disease from deficiency or toxicity. And when you look into what's causing these metabolic issues, it goes back to the food, but it's so much deeper than that. It goes back to how we're raised. And so again, that's just more of an emphasis on we've got to get the regenerative and holistic approaches in organic type means. I think that term's been, greenwashed and bastardized, but that philosophy nonetheless. What is kind of that next step of healing the leaky gut? Obviously, the probiotic is a big key component of that, but what else can we do to help bring that gut lining back into a state that it should be in?
Yeah, the biggest thing is just avoiding a lot of these things, avoiding the glyphosates, avoiding the antibiotics as much as you can. Eating whole, real, regenerative food, making sure we're eating whole foods, and obviously staying away from processed meats and processed, other types of processed foods. And obviously people who are listening to this are already, knowledgeable and wouldn't be doing those things anyway. But it's just really important that we're very aware when we're putting something into our mouth, like, is this poison or is it medicine? Is it helping us? And we have to remind ourselves of that. And, myself included, I get guilty of it too, and I'm like, okay, wait, I want to eat this now because I want to feed my body, something good. And that's, oh, go ahead. Were you going to ask something?
No, I just as we go through this and the tie-ins, it's just crazy. It's like how much like our gut microbiome is like the soil, like all the different working things that are in there, from the bacteria to the microorganisms of all different types, and how much our blood is like the ocean water, and how dependent we are on light, and just things that we really don't understand, and yet we're destroying all of those things, absolutely destroying all of those things. And so this mission, supplements are amazing. We have to have them in the modern world, but we've got to do better on all these fronts to fix it for everybody.
Yeah. And, it's really interesting when we were talking about soil is these spore-based probiotics that are used in Just Thrive are the same type of organisms that our ancestors got from the soil. So we were meant to consume these on a regular basis. And that's what's so exciting about it. It's like these products actually allow us to kind of go back to the way our ancestors evolved. We were eating roots and tubers off the land and eating the soil, getting the soil into our intestines. And that's why they all had healthy guts back then. And you go to tribes in Tanzania and Papua New Guinea, and you go to these tribes that have this pristine soil, and they're eating off the land. There are nobody has celiac, nobody has autoimmune issues, nobody has IBS and all of these other issues, or cancer. I mean, these are people, they are taking care of their guts just by eating off the land. And that's what's exciting about these strains, is these are the same type of strains that were found in our soil.
What you just said is just Sally Fallon Morell wrote Nourishing Diets is one of her latest books, and she breaks down what you just said in depth across the entire world, and it is so beautiful, and we have completely lost that. And so the next best thing, what we have got to do is get the best probiotic in our gut to overcome that deficiency of having it naturally. Something else, y'all have done two things. I'm trying to keep from going on different tangents. You have a pet probiotic too that I have seen make a massive difference for our customers. And you know what the biggest thing is? The smell. They say after their animals are on these probiotics, it doesn't smell. And so what have you found on the animal, the pet side?
Yeah, I'm going to answer that in a second, but I feel like I didn't answer the question about leaky gut, if you don't mind. So the thing with the spore-based probiotics is we did a double-blind human clinical trial on leaky gut, and this will tie into the pet product, but we did a double-blind human clinical trial on leaky gut. And remember, I was talking about those LPS toxins. Those LPS toxins, we have a study that actually, we measured this with college students. We took 100 college students, found out that 55% of them had a leaky gut and didn't know it. And the way we tested this, not us, but University of North Texas did the study, they found out that 55% of those college students had a leaky gut and didn't know it. And then they took those college students, divided them in half, sent half of them home with the placebo, half of them home with the spore-based probiotics, came back 30 days later. We all know what college students are doing to their bodies over 30 days, nothing good. So they were eating, there were no dietary or lifestyle modifications for those students. They came back, and the placebo group, actually, the treated group saw a 42% reduction in LPS toxins seeping into their bloodstream. This is just after 30 days, 42% reduction in LPS toxins leaking into their bloodstream. So it's showing that these strains are actually helping to seal up that gut lining. But here's the scary part. The placebo group, so the group that did not get any of the spore-based probiotics, they saw a 32% increase in LPS toxins going into the bloodstream. So what that's telling us is that when you have a leaky gut, it's like that drippy faucet. A little bit more goes in. Every time you eat, basically, you're putting more of those LPS toxins into your bloodstream. So it's like this drippy faucet. One day it overflows. You've heard people that say, all of a sudden I was fine, and all of a sudden I had an autoimmune issue, or all of a sudden I have allergies to this, or all of a sudden I have anxiety, whatever it might be. Well, it's that leakiness of the gut, and then one day just overflows. So that's why it's so important that we address the gut. People are taking multivitamins, they're taking vitamin C, vitamin D, and those are all great things to be taking. I'm a huge supplement taker myself. But if you are not addressing the gut, those nutrients are not going to be absorbed, because if your gut is inflamed, it's not able to absorb those nutrients. So in my opinion, it's foundational that we start with helping our gut and focusing on healing the gut as much as possible by taking the spore-based probiotics, by doing some of the other things, meditation, being calm. We know that, all these neurotransmitters are produced in our gut. We need to be calm, so that our brain is sending signals down to our gut, but so that our gut is sending signals back up to the brain. So I wanted to just answer the question about the leaky gut, because I feel like I didn't answer that. And here's the exciting thing about the dogs is that we did a double-blind study, a clinical trial on leaky gut with dogs. And we find that dogs have the same issues. Dogs in the wild aren't getting cancer and diabetes, all these other issues that dogs are getting. But it's because these dogs are living a human world. They're exposed to these toxins. Dogs are going out to the park parks that are sprayed with glyphosate. You go to, even if you're not spraying glyphosate, Roundup on your lawn, your neighbor may be, and you're taking your dog for a walk. So that's where dogs are having these problems. And, the dogs shouldn't smell. I mean, people shouldn't smell. Our bowel movements shouldn't smell. Like we should have, that's a sign that there's some unhealth going on. And so we need to be cleaning out our gut and making it balanced. So that's really why we're seeing crazy, exciting results with the dogs.
The same issues that we have, our pets are having, especially dogs, and it's just like, hey, we got to pay attention to like what is that correlation, because it's pretty obvious when you start looking at it.
Yep.
Tina, on the stress, something that I have heard recently a few different times were that the impacts of stress are almost like equivalent of like a pack of cigarettes a day on like high stress levels. And so that's led me to where y'all's product on the Just Calm has been a game changer for a lot of people. But how can a bacteria help us deal with stress?
Yeah. Well, it's really interesting because basically, like I mentioned, all of our neurotransmitters are being produced in our gut. So serotonin, which is our happy hormone, is produced in our gut. 90% of our serotonin is produced in our gut. Dopamine is produced in our gut. GABA, which is our calming hormone, is produced in our gut. So if we have this imbalance going on in our gut, those neurotransmitters aren't being aren't working optimally. We also know, so just the probiotic alone, just our probiotic, we know is so critical to mood health because we know that these neurotransmitters are being produced in our gut. We also know that if you have those LPS toxins seeping into the bloodstream, like I said, that inflammation could go to the heart, they could go to the brain. And when it goes to the brain, it creates this neuroinflammation in the brain, which leads to all kinds of cognitive issues, including stress, not being able to handle stress. But then the reverse is true too. So our brain sends signals down to the gut, and the brain is sending signals down to the gut to tell the gut to be calm. And so we know that there's this vagus nerve, and the vagus nerve is attaching the gut to the brain and sending signals back and forth to each other. So they work very closely together. And, and that's why I always tell people, go and meditate or go for a walk, whatever it is that calms you down. If you're having gut issues, do things to calm yourself down, because then the brain is sending signals down to the gut, which will make your gut healthier. But we also want to know how to handle some of those external stressors. And so what we found with our Just Calm product, it has a very important strain in there called Bifidobacterium longum 1714. This strain has been extensively studied to show that it actually helps you have a better perception of stress, so able to perceive stress better. It lowers your cortisol levels, which is key, because if all this cortisol gets produced in the gut, it starts creating all this inflammation. So we all know we have stressors every day. We can't get away from them, unfortunately. I think we should try very hard to meditate, go on walks, whatever it is that calms you down. But unfortunately, we're not going to be getting rid of those stressors. We're in this fight or flight response all the time. Fight or flight response was meant to protect us. If we're being chased by a saber-toothed tiger, we want to be in that fight or flight response. We want to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves and getting in there. But we now see a tweet and we go into a fight or flight response. We get an email, we get into an argument with a loved one. We have a to-do list that's too long. We're constantly in this fight or flight state, and that is not good. Having that heightened cortisol is so detrimental to our health. Like you said, it's like the equivalent of, smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. I can't overstate that enough. But the bottom line is we're not getting away from it. We just have to learn to handle it better. And so the APC Cork or APC University out of Cork, Ireland, has done extensive research on these psychobiotic strains. So this 1714 strain that I mentioned is a psychobiotic, and it's actually been shown in studies to reduce that perception of stress, actually put us, change our brainwave activity, put us more into that theta wave, like brainwave, that calm, that's the theta wave is that brainwave activity you want to be in when you're meditating meditating. So it gets you more into that focused state. Has helped shown to improve cognitive function. So it's really, really a very cool strain. It's actually has this. I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the name, but it has like this coat around itself, this coating around itself that actually helps it survive, similar to the endospore shell around itself. So it's really, really exciting. So we've seen great results, like you said, with that strain.
That's really interesting, that whole cortisol aspect of it. One of the telltales that I have seen over the years on the cortisol being off is that waking up at 2, 3 in the morning, just kind of that wide awake, that anxiety feeling, and just having a hard time going back to sleep. So have y'all seen anything with sleep being positively affected with taking the Just Calm?
Oh, absolutely. Because that's exactly it. It's bringing down your cortisol levels, which is going to help you sleep better. So we've had lots of testimonials from customers who have said it's improved their sleep. We have somebody on our team that it has just suffered, a great deal from like stress and not being able to handle stress, the anxiety, and it's helped her immensely. So it's really, we've seen great results with it.
One of the things that I love that y'all have done on the Just Calm is so I have the MTHFR gene variation, and so Lander does too, and I think that played into the cancer aspect among other things. But the folic acid being absolutely toxic, it's just something that is like an epidemic that not enough people know about. And y'all used a methylated form of folate. It's like the tetrahydrate 5, what the big scientific name. But
Yeah.
y'all used one that doesn't disrupt the methylation, and it doesn't negatively affect MTHFR. So just wanted to thank you for that. And is that something y'all are seeing more of, or people being maybe more aware? That's something to consider.
Yeah, we definitely are seeing that a lot with our customers. A lot of our customers are so educated, and that's what's so exciting. We feel like, and I feel like the more educated a customer is, the more they understand. And they, like you love our product because you're educated. You spend hours and hours researching. And I think that's what we see with our customers. So we do see a lot of customers who are saying that they've tested for the MTHFR gene, and so that's interesting. So we're seeing it a lot. So I'm just wondering if people should be more aware of that in their own lives, especially when they're dealing with issues. So, and it is important, when we're formulating products, we are looking at the, wide scope of people, and we want to make sure it is going to be working for the vast majority of our customers.
Is there an age that shouldn't be taking the Just Calm? So because I've got, a fourth grader and a third grader, and so I haven't been regularly giving them, and now I'm questioning myself. So is that something that would be fine to give them?
Yeah, I think on our bottle it's like 8 and above. A lot of that is for like choking hazards and things like that. But that's what's so hard is these kids it's such an epidemic, the stress that these kids are under. I mean, it is, talk about
Even the babies, even the
yeah,
little ones, it's just insane.
it is insane. And so, I think even if you start with a probiotic and then, kind of if your kids you feel like they're starting to have some type of, they're not able to handle stress as well as you'd like, then I think I would, introduce it to them for sure.
Two more things I want to hit on just briefly before we jump off is the IgG is something that I've taken religiously, but I've not done a good enough job educating our audience with that. So can you briefly say what that does, and then hit on the importance of a prebiotic, because a lot of people have a hard time differentiating probiotic, postbiotic, and prebiotics. If you don't care to do that.
Sure. So the IgG stands for immunoglobulin G. And so that's one of the most abundant antibodies that we have in our body. And the job of IgG is to bind like invaders that are in our body. So toxins, mold, fungus, and that's the job of IgG. We naturally produce it. We have it, and it's a very important part of our immune system because it's actually grabbing onto toxins and it neutralizes those toxins, and then your body safely removes them. Well, our IgG product is allows us to have 25% more IgG in our gut. So it's working in our gut, so helping assist our body to like grab onto those toxins and nutrients, or toxins and mold and fungus and all of that, grab onto it, and it helps the body safely remove it. It neutralizes, and then the body safely removes it. So really I am a huge fan myself. I am very religious about it. I mean, we don't launch a product unless it's something that my husband and I take personally, or we really feel like maybe we don't need it, but, we have a a urinary tract health product. I mean, obviously, my husband doesn't take it. I don't take it regularly. I will take it on occasion, but, there's lots, but most of our products we take personally. I am so passionate about it. We don't bring products that unless they're missing and needed and researched. So we want to make sure that we're bringing something to the market that's missing and needed, and we're not afraid to bring a disruptive product, which this IgG product is. And it has become so popular because of how impactful it is to supporting our immune system. It's further support of that gut lining. So it's, a lot of people will go with colostrum. This has so much more colostrum, than a regular colostrum supplement would have. It produces, I think, like 25% more colostrum. So it's really exciting to focus on the IgG, because it's further support of your immune system, further support of that gut lining, and getting rid of all that stuff that we don't want in our gut. And then as far as the prebiotic is super important. I always say that if you're eating tons of, vegetables and fruits that give you prebiotics, you wouldn't necessarily need our product. But, with the probiotic, you're not going to be able to get those strains from our soil anymore, because our soil is depleted of those nutrients and overfarmed and all the stuff that you talk about all the time. But the prebiotic, if you're eating tons and tons of fruits and vegetables, but probably not enough. We all think we're eating a whole bunch, but we really need to make sure that we're getting those prebiotics, because what the prebiotic does is it actually goes into the gut and starts to feed those beneficial bacteria. The problem that we have with a lot of prebiotics on the market is that they can't distinguish between the good bacteria and the bad bacteria in your gut. So sometimes you take a prebiotic, you're taking fiber, and then it's also feeding the bad bacteria. So it makes a problem worse. So it took us years before we launched a prebiotic, because we wanted to make sure that we found ingredients that only target the beneficial bacteria in the gut. So our prebiotic actually only targets the beneficial bacteria, and it helps increase diversity. We know if we have a healthy microbiome, we have a diverse microbiome. And, if we have a diverse microbiome, we have a healthy microbiome. The probiotic increases diversity by tenfold. You add in that prebiotic, it's increasing the diversity by 100-fold. So it's just really important that you're taking a prebiotic that's only targeting the beneficial bacteria, and that's what ours has been shown to do.
We've used yours religiously, especially the IgG. Anytime anybody gets sick, the whole family just starts taking it like crazy, just make sure nobody else gets it. On the prebiotic, it has the drink mix, at least, has got a little bit of a sweetness. And my little two, they call it white. I want white in their drink, so I've got to sprinkle a little bit of it in there. They don't want plain water because they're used to the white. But the gummy you've done has been a game changer. I actually have to not bring it home because it doesn't seem to last as long as it should, because I think that they're snacking on it a little bit. But y'all have done a great job. I've loved working with y'all. I cannot sing Just Thrive's praises enough. And Tina, thank you for being a wonderful resource, especially for me. Your whole crew, your whole team has, from Joni and Kieran and Keith, like everybody has been absolutely phenomenal. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, Logan. You have no idea how much it means to me that you're out promoting us and, sharing your knowledge and wisdom. We are all doing this from the heart, yourself included and myself. So appreciate you the opportunity to be on here.
Thank you for listening to the Sowing Prosperity podcast. We hope that you have learned something new and that you are inspired to adopt regenerative practices in your community. Remember that by working together, we can create a sustainable and abundant future for ourselves and for future generations.